Hello everybody and welcome to Books of Blood. My name is John and today I've got a small, and when I mean small, a very small physical book haul, and then I've got some ebooks, an ebook haul also. And I thought to myself, can you actually call an ebook, when you buy a bunch of ebooks, can you call that a haul? I mean, because a haul implies that you're carrying something, and you know, this might be something heavy. And I say that you can because I'll have you know that after I ordered these books and I put them onto my Kindle or my Fire HD or whatever you want to call it, before it, I weighed it. I weighed my Fire HD, and then after I loaded the books onto it and weighed it again, it weighed at least a pound more than before I put the books on it. So I think you can call it a haul. All right, so that's what we're going to go with. All right, so let's go ahead and get the 3 books that I've got, physical books that I've got, out of the way. Now the first one is one sent to me. This is a novelette, or well, I guess you call it a novelette, or maybe a really longer short story or whatever. Anyway, this is from Nicholas Gray, and Nicholas, or Nick, as you know him, is Spooky Noodles here on YouTube, or BookTube, excuse me. And he sent me this one called The Woman Shrouded in Flies. I love that title. I love that cover. It's just awesome, alright? So let's see what this book is about. Young Troy is sick of his parents fighting. Even while camping on a supposed vacation, all his parents seem to do is bicker. Troy has had enough of it. He storms out of the camper and runs out into the neighboring woods where he stumbles over something horrifying. His parents are too wrapped up in an argument to notice their only child is missing. Is it too late? That is The Woman Shrouded in Flies. And what I've understood about this book is that Nick really goes to the extreme on this. I mean, he's been reading a lot of extreme horror lately, and I think it's going to show. From what I understand, it shows in this book. So, man, I can't wait to get my hands and get reading this one. All right, so there you go. That's The Woman Shrouded in Flies. Excuse me. Okay, next up. Now, this is one that Nick's been talking about, an author that Nick's been talking about. And I've had other people talk about him, and one of his books was Talia. I'm going to order Talia, but I wanted to order the first book where she's mentioned in it. And this is by Daniel J. Volpa, or Volpe, or Volpa, or I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. So if I'm butchering it, I apologize. Anyway, this is Billy Silver. Alright. Sex, Drugs, and Mayhem. Billy Silver, a low-life, self-downtrodden junkie, needs some cash to get his next fix. After getting kicked out of his own band, Shitfist, losing his girlfriend, and left with no other options, he decides to sell his flesh to the ink of a needle at a newly opened tattoo shop. The mysterious artist, Talia, tattoos a cryptic design he's never seen. Shortly after getting inked, compulsions burned underneath his skin. His need to satisfy a newly arisen addiction to self-mutilation begins a descent into darker places than his miserable life never dared go. That sounds awesome. I cannot, yeah, I say I can't wait to read all these books, so yeah, I want to read this one for sure. This sounds so cool. Alright. And then finally, for the physical ebook haul, this is an author that, if you recall, I reviewed his book, Dead Inside. I gave it a half a star rating, and it almost was one of those things where I just never wanted to read anything else by this author. However, I am a huge fan of the splatter western series from Death's Head Press. So when I noticed that he had written a splatter western, which would be book number 11, I gave in. So I am hoping that this book is better than Dead Inside. Alright? I have not been too disappointed by anything from the splatter western series. The last one I was a little disappointed in, but it is what it is, alright? Anyway, this is Human-Shaped Fiends. Okay? Let's see what this book is about. Los Angeles, 1854, Felipe Alvatre and a band of teenage outlaws set out on a brutal, seemingly random killing spree across the San Gabriel Valley, igniting the ire of the Los Angeles citizens. Sheriff James Barton wrestles with a rapidly escalating crime rate and a populace that demands more from their corrupt, do-nothing legal system as the bodies continue to pile up. The crimes of the young Alvatre gang become symbolic of a greater frustration, and the sheriff faces mounting pressure to bring the outlaws to justice. His greatest battle, however, comes from within, and his responsibilities soon play second fiddle to his struggles with addiction and his toxic, unrequited love for a mysterious prostitute. Alright, and that is Human-Shaped Fiends. Alright, moving on to the ebooks, right? So, I got the synopses right here for these, and hopefully these ebook, the pictures will pop up as I name them. They've been doing that, so I don't see any reason why they would not, unless there's something wrong with the app or whatever. Alright, so first up, I have got 2 books of extreme horror, and these are both by John Athan. So, the first one is The Abuse of Ashley Collins. Ashley Collins, a 16-year-old girl, has severe behavior issues. She regularly fights with her parents, Logan and Jane. When the fights become personal and physical, Logan and Jane decide to take matters into their own hands. They chain their daughter in the basement and abuse her in an attempt to rescue her from her bad behavior, while delving into their own deviance and depravity. This is a story of family and abuse. This is a story of violence and discipline. This is The Abuse of Ashley Collins. Alright. And next up from John Athan, also from John Athan, or I didn't have to say that. It's from John Athan, alright? Mr. Snuff. And this is the first book in a 4-part series called the Snuff series or something like that. I just want to see how this one is, and I might read the rest of them. Russell Wheeler, an enforcer turned contractor, spirals into a violent tailspin when his daughter is slaughtered for a snuff film. With his limited resources, including his trusty framing hammer and his criminal connections, Russell hunts the people responsible for his daughter's vicious death. He finds himself digging into the pits of hell, delving into a world of unimaginable depravity. That is Mr. Snuff. Alright. I tell you, I've been getting into the extreme horror stuff, but I don't want to get so far into it that I ignore everything else, because I still love reading books about haunted houses and vampires and werewolves and ghosts and things like that, you know. And yeah, the real world is a whole lot scarier, but I still love reading the other stuff too, the paranormal stuff or whatever you want to call it, the supernatural stuff. It's just too much fun. So number 3, Haunted House by Rick Wood. It's 23rd March 2020 in the UK, and the Prime Minister has announced a countrywide lockdown. I wonder why. Like everyone else in the UK, Lisa is forced to stay at home with her family. Unlike everyone else in the UK, Lisa has just moved into a new house and strange things keep happening. Voices talking to her, things being moved, and a rage that is growing inside of her, one that poisons her thoughts and creates an irrational hatred toward her family. As the lockdown continues, she starts to wonder what's the biggest threat, the disease or the presence controlling her in her own home. Alright, that is Haunted House. And that is, who did I say that was by? Rick Wood, alright? Alright, next up we have got The Witch, and this is by Fred Anderson. When tragedy strikes during a visit with their grandmother, Ryan Campbell and his sister Emily find themselves preparing for a trip to the hospital with their mother Lisa instead of returning home. Desperate to avoid reliving the traumatic memories of his father's death, Ryan begs for a way out. Fortunately, Grandma Wendy's best friend Dot offers to keep the siblings for the afternoon, and despite her misgivings, Lisa agrees to let the old woman take them. But as all three Campbells soon discover, Dot isn't the sweet lady she appears to be. She's bent on revenge for her own traumatic memories and has all the powers of hell at her command to get it. And when I was reading this, I didn't put this in here, but there's an author's note saying that this book contains bloody violence, innuendos, sexual this, sexual that, all kinds of stuff in it. So, you know, it says read at your own risk and things like that. Anyway, that is The Witch, and that is by Fred. Did I say Fred Anderson? Yes, Fred Anderson. Next up, we've got two books, I believe, by James A. Moore. I think they're both, yes, two books by James A. Moore. The first one is This Is Halloween. Author James A. Moore offers up 10 autumnal tales of the darker things that lurk just around the corner of Indian summer. A man learns of a town's obsession with scarecrows and tries to find the answers as to why they are so important. Children move through familiar streets and find that Halloween makes everything different. 'Tis the season when ghosts are real, witches soar through the night, and things in the Beldam Woods are not always what they seem. Sometimes it's the monsters that wear the masks. And that is This Is Halloween, James A. Moore. Alright, next up from James A. Moore, we have got Harvest Moon, and I believe the subtitle for this one is Tales of the Beldam Woods or something like that. I can't remember exactly what, and I didn't write it down. So, you reap what you sow in Beldam Woods. Once upon a time, there was a town called Beldam Woods, where all of the people lived happy, carefree lives, and no one wanted for anything. All of the children at the schools studied hard and learned their lessons. All of the adults were true to their spouses, and everyone was content. At least that's what the travel brochures say. They don't tell you about the puddle of blood found inside the local veterinary clinic, or about the old librarian found torn to pieces inside his house. They don't mention the troubles the police are having with their investigations into local crimes, or about the petty jealousies that have grown between the students attending the local public school and the kids going to the upper crust private academy. Those brochures fail to mention the odd vegetation growing in the woods not far from the town, or the reasons that everyone in the Witch's Hollow is poisonous, that everything in the Witch's Hollow is poisonous to eat or even to touch. None of the literature written about Beldam Woods talks of human sacrifices or the desecration of new graves. There's not a word written down about the monsters that allegedly lived there in the past or what the townsfolk did to them. And most importantly, there's no mention of what happens when the monsters come back to put paid to some old debts. And that is, oh God, Harvest Moon. That is Harvest Moon. Man, I could remember the title of it. That's a long synopsis. All right, next up, we have got Twisted Tainted Tales by Janine Pipe. And this is her debut, and I've heard some good things about it. An abandoned house, a locked desk drawer full of old papers, and an 80s mixtape? Jill is tasked with seeking out any legal documents from the property. What she discovers transports her into a world of nightmares, ranging from the macabre to the downright chilling. Jill knows she has to share the stories she's uncovered. In Twisted Tainted Tales, the Splatterpunk Award nominee delivers creature features, supernatural urban legends, cannibalism, and a few other surprises. Mixing flash fiction with short stories, these tales might be tainted and will be twisted. And that is Twisted Tainted Tales by Janine Pipe. Alright. Number 8. From James Newman, we've got Ride or Die. Amelia Fletcher is a good girl. She's a straight-A student, second chair in her middle school chorus, and she never uses the Lord's name in vain. But a few days ago, she discovered that her dad has been cheating on her mom. For the first time in her life, Amelia decides that she would like to know what it feels like to be a bad girl for just one night. With the help of her BFFs, Cassie and Feline, she plans to teach Dad's other woman a lesson. It's harmless fun, right? An evening of teenage mischief. When all is said and done, the homewrecker will go away and never come back. Only then can Amelia's family begin to repair what has been broken. However, this was no ordinary affair, and the trio could never expect the horrors that await them inside the house on Callahan Drive. and that is Ride or Die by James A. Newman. And it's a short little, it's a novella, and it's, I really want to read this one. This sounds so cool. Alright, number 9, we've got Where the Devil Waits, and this is by Wesley Southard and Mark Steensland. Wesley Southard, I've read Cruel Summer that he just put out not long ago. Awesome book. He also did one with Summer Cannon, and I am totally drawing about Slaves to Gravity. Slaves to Gravity is, I believe, the name of it. It's another really good one. So I am really looking forward to this one because he's just an awesome writer. And I think I've read Mark Steensland also, but I don't recall what book it was that I read. All Frank wanted from his Friday night was to drink beer and bullshit with his friends, Chris, Doug, and Stan. But when Stan challenges them to test a local urban legend about a church where you can race the devil, things get hot fast. Old conflicts soon surface, and Frank finds himself going along for the ride just to keep the peace. At the church, Stan shows them how it's done, running the race and claiming he won. Which means the devil is now his personal genie. After Frank runs the race and loses, he quickly dismisses his supposed fate, that he'll die before sunrise. It's just another attempt by Stan to get back at him for stealing his girlfriend. But before the night is over, all four find themselves in a new reality, where the supernatural has suddenly become normal, and Stan's power grows to terrifying heights. Will these friends find a way to defeat someone in league with the devil, or will they succumb to the awful fate he has planned for each of them? Dun dun dun! That is Where the Devil Waits. Wesley Southard, Mark Steensland. Alright. And finally, we have got from Mark Lestrange. I just ordered this one. I didn't order it, I just bought it on my Kindle yesterday, I believe. And this is The Haunted House from Hell. Let's say with an echo, the haunted house from hell. Anyway, horrible echo, horrible echo. Alright, when Catherine Porter murders her only son and takes her own life, no one can understand why. Vilified for her crime, she becomes synonymous with everything evil and wicked amongst the locals, and parents begin using her name to scare their errant children into behaving. Soon after her death, reports begin to circulate that her ghost has been seen inside her old house. Over the years, the sightings continue, sending most of the house's occupants running from the property, screaming into the night, never to return. When the Jefferson family moves in, they decide to hold a seance to finally rid the property of its unwanted guest. But in doing so, they unleash something even more terrifying, a malevolent force that will stop at nothing to take back its domain. And that is The Haunted House from Hell, Mark Lestrange. And that is it. That is my small, physical, and rather large ebook haul. Like I said, my Kindle, my Fire weighed about a pound more after I put these books on my thing. So yes, I'm saying it's a haul. Anyway, it is Saturday. I'm going to probably get this posted on Sunday because I have to edit it. And until then, you guys enjoy the rest of the weekend, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.